Hello and welcome to Very Interesting. I'm your host, Barry Aycock. Today I'm joined by Executive Director of the Stars and Stripes Museum and Library, Laura Dumey. Laura?
Nice to meet you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
There's so much we're going to get into about the Stars and Stripes Museum and Library, but first tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, your family.
I'm Laura Dumey. I'm from Bloomfield. I was raised there. My dad was from Bloomfield as well. I went to Bloomfield School. I did move away when I was, and after college, well, before college I moved away, and then I moved back in 2006. But I'm a native, and I love the area, and the museum has always been something that has interested me, so I wanted to make sure I gave back to my community.
How long have you been at the Stars and Stripes Museum and Library, and what's your role there?
So we moved back to Bloomfield in 2006, and I started volunteering in probably 2008. In 2008, I volunteered just maybe one day a week. Then as time went on, I started volunteering more. And then in 2012, I was pretty much, a full-time volunteer. But it wasn't until 2017 that I was hired as the curator, and then in 2019 I was hired as the administrator, and then this year I became executive director.
So your role's really evolved over the years.
Yes, it has.
Sounds
Yes.
like you've had some really fun roles. I know you gave us a private tour one time. It was really, really good. There's not too many people that know more about the museum than you do.
Probably the founders, Jim and Sue Mayo, know a lot more than I do, but working there, you just kind of pick up things, and I don't know, and you love it, so you learn, as the time goes on as well.
Speaking of Jim and Sue Mayo, tell us a little bit about the history of Stars and Stripes. What is Stars and Stripes?
Okay, so Stars and Stripes is our nation's military newspaper. It has been around since the Civil War. The first one was printed in Bloomfield on November 9th, 1861. We know that, the town didn't get that first newspaper until 1968, when a man in Verona, Indiana, found it in his attic. He bought a house. There was a roll-top desk in the attic, and he opened it up. There was a cardboard tube in there, and the newspaper was in there. So the man called the Smithsonian Institute to try to sell it there. The Smithsonian said they don't buy artifacts, but you could donate it to them. So he didn't really want to donate it. So he called the Bloomfield Vindicator, which was the newspaper office at the time, and they contacted the Stoddard County Historical Society. The Historical Society had $200 in their account, and the man wanted $250 for it. So Jim Mayo likes to say that he had the Stoddard County Historical Society borrowed the other $50. But I think he's the one who put up the money, and they got the newspaper. They bought the newspaper for $250 back in 1968.
So the museum was born then in 1968?
No, actually, so in 1968, the newspaper belonged to the Stoddard County Historical Society.
Okay.
And they took it to University of Missouri and had all the tape removed and had it preserved as best that they could do that at that time. It wasn't until 1985, when the town of Bloomfield had their sesquicentennial, that the concept of having a museum around the Stars and Stripes newspaper was born. And that's because the Stars and Stripes, they came to Bloomfield because we were the birthplace of the newspaper, and to do a story. At that time, Colonel Baker was the officer in charge, and he went to Jim Mayo. Jim Mayo invited him to his house, and they were just sitting around on the patio, and Jim said, there should be a museum for the Stars and Stripes. It's so interesting, its story. And Colonel Baker looked at him and said, yeah, Jim, and it should be right here in Bloomfield. So that kind of got the ball rolling, and by 1991, we were incorporated as the Stars and Stripes Museum Library Association Incorporated. So it was 1991 that the museum was born. 1998, that first building was built where we are currently today.
So 1998 was the building that most of the artifacts are in now.
So in 1998, the small part of the museum was built, and that was thanks to a huge donation by Ted Adamick, who was a printer for the Stars and Stripes. He gave a $40,000 donation, and we built that small building. Then we needed a lot more space. So we had the addition put on in 2000, and the Navy Seabees came down and helped build that addition. So we were thankful for our community, the Navy Seabees, the former stripers, for the building that we have today.
Laura, you got me feeling so insufficient on talking to you about this, because there's so many important characters along the way in the history of the Stars and Stripes Museum and Library. Not predating the actual library, because there's a lot of characters building up to that that's important to the Stars and Stripes newspaper. But we're going to brush over too many people here.
I know. I know, it's crazy because it was a huge group of veterans. Everybody from, a lot of veterans helped with that project. And I know my dad, including was one of them. So, yeah.
We've got this amazing jewel here at the Stars and Stripes Museum and Library. And the one thing that's been discouraging to me, it's underutilized. There's still people to this day that have not stepped foot into the museum and library. So
you don't know how many people tell me, oh yeah, I drive by it, I see that Huey helicopter out front, but I've never been in. And I'm like, why? It's free, admission is free. That's one of the benefits of having this museum here in Bloomfield. We don't want to turn anyone away. So admission is free, so there's no reason. And if you call me and can't make it during those hours, I will do a private tour.
It really is something to see. There's so much
you.
history in the museum. How many visitors have visited the museum since it first opened?
I would say about 200,000. We average about 12,000 per year, and it keeps going up now. But
and the museum and library is 100% funded by donations, right?
100%. We do not. A lot of people get confused with the cemetery next door. They are state funded. It's a Missouri State Cemetery. But we are not connected, unfortunately. We do talk to them and help them, and they come and, and do things for us if we ask them. When it's a snowy day, they might come and plow our driveway for us. But there are a lot of things that they can't do, just because they can't give us money or anything like that. So, yeah.
But you made a lot of upgrades over the last 3 or 4 years at the Stars and Stripes Museum and Library. You just showed me some pictures of a new barracks.
I did. So our big red barn, that's a kind of a story and stuff. Can I back up just a little bit?
I'd love to hear about the big red barn. I've seen the big red barn.
So back in 1991, a group of veterans went to the county commissioners and wanted some land to build the museum on. And the county commissioners, gave them 5 acres. I believe it was either 5 or 7 acres, and the big red barn was included in that. And they said, it was a verbal agreement at the time. They said, we'd like you to take care of that barn. And my great-grandfather helped build that barn. So I've kind of taken it to heart and felt like that barn was being underutilized. So we have completely cleaned out the barn. We have a World War II barracks in the loft of the barn. We have 5 vehicles, 4 in the barn. We have an M37 communication vehicle. We have a CCKW dated 1942, I believe. It's a troop transport vehicle. We have a WC-58, it's a command car, and we have a half-track that we're picking up tomorrow. So we have 4 vehicles that dated from World War II to Korea that we house in that barn, and then a World War II barracks in the loft. So it's a barracks, it's a medic station, there's a mess hall in there, there's a clerk's room and a supply room.
Then last time I was at the Red Barn, you had this guard cat. Is the guard cat still
The
there?
guard cat Barney, yes, Barney is still there taking care of all of our pesky rodents that try to get in there, but he won't let them. He's still there.
So Laura, that brings me to another question. How do you historically accurately portray all the exhibits you have there? Who's the expert? How do you set the exhibits up and make sure they're historically accurate?
Okay, so that would be, well, we have some help there because a lot of the people that donated these items are still alive, and I contact them and make sure that we're doing it right. Some of the exhibits have been there before I was hired, but the ones that I personally do, I do a lot of research, and the ones that I know who are still alive, I make sure that we are honoring what they have accomplished, and we're telling the story in a way that is historically accurate as well.
Are you getting historical artifacts throughout the years? Are you getting calls all the time, or?
We do get a lot of calls, not every day, but sometimes we actually make those calls and make those connections. Now with social media, you know, there's a former Stars and Stripes Facebook group that where people who worked in the European Stars and Stripes kind of like get together, and so I'll reach out to them, or the Pacific Stars and Stripes. So we can reach out that way, and we've gotten a lot of people that have said, "Oh, I'm so glad you're doing this," and then yeah, I'll donate my things. We have stripers that come visit us and donate their items, and you know, help us with the displaying them and tell us the story behind it.
Which I've personally been twice. I love the museum and library. But
Thank
what
you.
will a person find when they come for a tour or school group? What do they have to look forward to when they get there?
Well, our first room is the Civil War room we always take them to. It's sort of a timeline right now. In the Civil War room, you'll see an original 1861 newspaper. It's under glass, but it's really neat to read. It was written for soldiers and by the Union soldiers and for them. They talk about Jeff Thompson, who they were after, and Jeff Thompson was kind of a rascal. He was very slippery. He knew how to maneuver the swamp, so General Grant called him the Swamp Fox of the Confederacy. The Union soldiers wrote a whole article about how to maneuver the swamps. So they felt like that must have been important to get out there so that they could, you know, catch that Jeff Thompson. So you'll see it. We also have a touch exhibit in the Civil War room. So kids can touch things that they're mostly replicas, but there are some artifacts from Civil War that you can actually touch and hold. Then we have an exhibit that is under glass that is, those are the actual artifacts that we don't want, you know, fingerprints and things on.
Which there's quite a few of those, right?
Yes, there are quite a few of those as well. Then from Civil War, you go into our World War I room, where we showcase the main editors of the World War I paper. We have a cartoon exhibit and a poetry exhibit. We have, I'm trying to think like all the things we have. We have World War II. We have a D-Day exhibit about the 8 men who went in on D-Day and what they were tasked to do, which was write a newspaper on the continent of France. We have an exhibit on Korea, and we highlight 2 stripers back there, Frank Prater and Bob McNeil. We have our Vietnam exhibit, where we highlight Gary Cooper and Steve Croft. And then we have our modern era. We highlight Ron Jensen in the Gulf War, and we highlight Lara Roche in Afghanistan. And actually, Lara Roche is going to be our keynote speaker at the Spirit of Democracy banquet.
Well, that brings me to my next question. There are a lot of events associated with the museum and the library. Mm-hmm. I remember one you had I think it was Ulysses S. Grant impersonator one time.
We did.
That was really cool. So
yeah.
Do you have any upcoming events besides the one you just mentioned?
Okay, so our next event is actually October 6th and 7th. It is our Liberty Days event, and this event is wonderful. This is our community outreach event. It's not a fundraiser or anything like that. This is an event where we want to teach history to our community. And we have encampments set up from Revolutionary War to present. So we have the Daughters of the American Revolution. They are going to be doing quill writing, soap making, weaving, basket weaving. We have a lady that does makes furniture with willow branches. I'm not sure she's going to be able to do it this year, but you just never know what's going to happen with those Revolutionary War era, that Revolutionary War time period. We do have a educator that comes down and talks to them, Dr. Adam Cribley from SEMO. We have the Mountain Men era, where they can see how musket balls are made. We have a blacksmith. Actually, our blacksmith has just been promoted to major, and his last name is Payne. So we have Major Payne there.
That'll be interesting.
Yes. We have a Mountain Men exhibit that has hide tanning and things like that. So then we go to Civil War, and then we have World War I. We're going to have a World War I flamethrower this year. We have World War II. So we have the barracks, and we have some setups outside too. We have Korea inside, and I have a Korean veteran that's going to talk about his experiences in Korea. Vietnam, I have Vietnam veterans that are going to talk about that, all the way to present. So it's going to be a really exciting, neat to go through and see all these encampments. On that Saturday, we're going to have a dessert auction. So we would love for everyone to come out and join us that Saturday, October 7th. And we'll have a photo contest as well.
But you have events throughout the year.
We do.
How do we find out about those events?
We're on Facebook. That's one of the main ways that people do find us. But we also can just check out our website. Our website is nssml.org. And you can click on events, and it will take you to all the events that are coming up.
So Laura, y'all do so many great things there, Stars and Straps Museum and Library, but you can't do all this for free. So if someone wanted to get involved in donating time or money or resources, do they contact you directly?
Yes, definitely contact me directly. We do have a lot of volunteers, and we always need volunteers too. Sometimes people say, well, I can't volunteer on a weekly basis, but I could probably volunteer an event. So we have a list of names so we would love to grow that list of names where we can say, yes, we can call on you for this event or that event. We just had a journalism summer camp with kids that we had probably 12 volunteers that came and helped with that, which was great. So,
I mean, it's a gem here for Southeast Missouri.
Yes.
It's historic, and we need to keep it going for future generations. But we got to get the word out, and that's what we're here to do today. Laura Dumey, thank you for being here today, Executive Director of Stars and Straps Museum and Library.
Thank you for having me.
Laura, I'm going to give you the last word. So if someone, again, wants to get involved, donations, physical, manual labor, how do they get in touch with you?
Give me a call at the museum. The number is 573-568-2055. That's the best way to get a hold of me. Or you can check out our website. Our phone number is on there as well.
Yes, we need to keep Stars and Straps Museum and Library thriving for future generations. Thank you.